All right, there we go.
Okay, so welcome,
Well,
Aaron Saunders. In3Talks 24. It's been quite some time we have not spoken. Just as we usually do, give us a little bit of an update of what's going on with In3 and also with your other business, Clearly Innovative, and what's going on with Aaron Saunders in 2021, because you haven't spoken to your audience since the start of the year,
okay,
at least
so
on the In3Talks platform.
we'll start at the top. In3, we started off our Capital One sponsored program of entrepreneurs that we're working with to kind of take them through our normal cohort. Excited to kind of get back at that. We haven't run a program since, what was I think, last spring, last summer. Last
Yeah,
summer, so it's kind of
that's
good to get that energy, that food for the soul that you
yes.
get working with the good and the bad of working
Yeah.
with entrepreneurs, trying to kind of figure out what their business is, grow their business, create their business, come up with appropriate strategies for success. So it's good to get engaged with that. Um, I have re-engaged with, from a personal note, which also kind of impacts the work we do. I'm re-engaging with my CEO group that I work with, which the thing I like about it is I could take some of the stuff that we're dealing with at work and we can talk about it there. And then you learn strategies that you can circle back around. And so I find that helpful. I find engagement that you can apply to real world kind of in very short time span. I enjoy that much better than kind of sitting in a class and learning something. And then you're like, all right, when am I ever going to use this in real life? So I like the fact that I'm able to kind of apply the things that I'm learning in real time almost. Clearly Innovative is still, cruising along well. I think actually the last time we spoke, we had hired an apprentice. She was with us for about 3 months and she's since moved on and got a good job. Had a great experience with her. She did give us a referral to another gentleman who just started, what's today, Wednesday?
Yeah.
She gave
Wednesday.
us a referral to another gentleman who started on Monday, and he's moving along fine. I'll take a detour on each one of my updates. So I'll take a detour now here that there was a post that I saw on LinkedIn from Kapoor Center. I think it was Kapoor Center, which I'll add a link in the podcast, where they were just talking about how like the big companies have just done a horrible job on diversity and inclusion in their apprenticeship program. And, it's just, I just find it dumbfounded. Like I literally just send out a tweet, like literally just send out a tweet and I'm able to find, you know, apprentices, right? It's really not that hard. And, as I said in my response, we're a small organization. We got less than 10 people in our organization. And if we're able to manage right now, we're just managing one at a time. Um, and that's while doing our other jobs, right? These organizations can afford to hire a person to put together an apprenticeship program and run it. Like we're absorbing this apprenticeship in our normal day-to-day operations and figuring out how to add value for them. And when I say so much value that someone who's gone through it actually referred someone that she knows to do it also, right? So if it wasn't adding value, she wouldn't be telling these other, like this other gentleman is someone that our first apprentice had gone through a boot camp with.
Oh,
Right?
interesting. Yeah.
So she went through a boot camp, was looking for work. And while she was trying to find a full-time job, she found out about our apprenticeship and she wanted to kind of get experience really working on projects. That's what we do. We put them on real projects. And so, and we knew, we knew going in that she would still be looking for other jobs. And so that was fine. We're not upset. I think we just ask folks when they come in for like it's either a 2 or 3 month commitment. We ask them to try their best, right? Because we understand their long-term goals to find a job.
But they're still paid.
Yes, we pay our interns. Yeah. She stayed with us for 3 months, but she actually recommended someone else that she knew to say, "Hey, there's value working with these guys. You should go check them out." And so we're working with this gentleman right now, and so I'm excited about that. And once again, I get my energy off of doing this type of thing, just like I do working with the entrepreneurs. So that's good. Our services business is going well. Hopefully we will get to announce some interesting projects that we've worked with actually 3 small businesses right now. Interesting enough, I think you'd say they're all are they all in the services space? You say that?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes, they are.
they're all in the
Absolutely.
services space, and
Yeah.
they're all kind of in the sweet spot that we talk about all the time, which is about tech enabling existing businesses to add value, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's what all of these solutions are. Um, so that's clearly innovative. Spoke about IN3. The Futures Written in Code brand under IN3. Well, the brand that came out of IN3. We've announced, and hopefully you guys will start to see more in the press and kind of more just more out there on social media about this program. It's our MVP Business Bootcamp, where I think, and you can help me on this, Rahel. I think that in3 Labs focuses more on business and tech,
Right.
and we're kind of shifting the weight with the MVP Bootcamp, where it'll be more of a focus on tech, but with some validation around the business to make sure that we're building the solution that's kind of aligned with your business goals, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So that's kind of,
Absolutely.
so we'll have a little bit of the requirements, validation stuff up front so that we're making sure we're building the right thing. And then we'll focus a lot of time on providing overall group support and individual support for companies to build out an MVP.
Mm-hmm.
So that's we'll include the link below on that. And what else has gone on? We're continuing. I have some conversations coming up with other what's the word I'm using now? Institutions. We're continuing our work of having conversations with other institutions about providing programs and services in the ecosystem building innovation space, which is kind of, I would say, where we're moving with IN3 into more of a service provider and less of a operator of a physical space, right? And so we're pretty excited about that. It gives us a lot of flexibility. I'm excited that we're actually having conversations with people outside of the district. So we're, a big goal for those who've been following us was always to expand the in3 brand kind of nationwide.
Yeah.
And so we're having conversations with people in Maryland. We're having conversations with people in Atlanta. I've had some conversations with people down in Florida. So we're just excited to, just to start to have the conversations with folks. So it demonstrates that people see value in the work that we do, and they're interested with talking to us about it. Now we need them to get interested in paying us for it.
Yes.
Then we'll all be happy, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Because you're in business only when you get
Yes,
transactions.
yes. I say that to my friends. You don't have a job, so you get your first paycheck, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If not, you're a nonprofit, and even a
Yes,
nonprofit needs to generate revenue.
Exactly.
So, thank you for that. In terms of, so you've touched upon a few topics. We'll definitely break it down. So let's start with uh, just off the bat in terms of the product development, because you said it's a technology. One of the things that you've always mentioned is that you need to be either tech enabled or a technology company. And your program, The Future Written in Code, the product development is, our community members have a lot of ideas, but they don't know how to make it into a technology. So elaborate a little bit more about what is the value that they're getting by participating into this 8 weeks sessions, workshops, to really come out with an MVP of the technology solution.
Which
with
one are
understanding the business.
We're talking about the
process.
Futures Written in Code Bootcamp?
Yes.
All right. So the basic idea is that we've run Clearly Innovative for almost 12 years now. And we've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs who might have some technical capability and have a basic understanding what they want to build, but can't get it kind of to that next level. And so that's what we're trying to do. So from a technical perspective, what we're doing is we're utilizing the tools that we use every day at Clearly Innovative, which is Ionic Framework. And we usually start out with Firebase or some other database as a service is the term that I'll use. So we're not building out a full-blown back end. We're going to leverage one that exists already to save money. And we're going to focus more on, what is the first solution that I'm going to deliver that's going to demonstrate value to my target audience, and then also demonstrate value to potential funders or whatever I need to help me move to the next place with the development of my solution. And so that's where the combination of the technology support that we provide, which is how do we build the solution, as we say, innovatively, clearly innovative, right? How do we build the solution and make sure that we're spending our dollars where they need to be? And I'll give a perfect example on a gentleman that I just had a talk with that I should have charged, but I'm going to figure out how to charge people for. I know him personally. And he wants me to help him build out a solution. And he came to me with a solution, and it's too much, right? He just simply doesn't have the money to build everything he needs to build. Right? But, through a back and forth conversation, which is the type of thing we're going to do in the boot camp, I helped him to understand where's the best place to spend your money. So through back and forth conversations, we came to the conclusion that the most important part of the solution is how you're onboarding clients.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so instead of doing all this other nice stuff to make the app do this and do that, the money should be spent on onboarding the clients and making sure that experience is the best experience in the world, because then that's where the value add is in the solution, and onboarding the clients and getting them happy and getting them to kind of enter the information. The other stuff is just basic blocking and tackling, right? And so if you spend all your money into basic blocking and tackling and you have this kind of basic onboarding experience, what do you get?
Yeah.
Right?
One of the main things that we talk about also, especially after these inclusive innovation labs, is a lot of people don't think it through. And this is one of the add value that you bring, is that from a product development perspective, what you're doing is you're breaking things down, right? And you're saying these are the phases you're onboarding that you're mentioning. But what is the value, an additional value that they're getting through this Future Written Code bootcamp, is that we are also integrating the business aspect. Think about the processes and the systems and the features, because you're thinking it through from a wealth of experience. I call you the tech guru or should I say the veteran. And so as a veteran, you've built so many solutions that it's easy for you to kind of map out what the product is. And so could you just give us a little bit in terms of when do you expect to launch, where they can go to find out information about this, and then how much it will cost? Applications
are open right now. I think, I don't have it in front of me, I think the introductory price that we have is
$475.
It's $475, which will be the price until I think the middle of March, and then it pops to like 600 and change. I think, as we said, it's an 8-week program. First 2 weeks will be focused on requirements and making sure we're defining what we want to build. Then the next 4 weeks will be focused on building. It'll be a combination of, for lack of a better word, lectures, where I'll talk about, we'll do a combination of talking about and developing the scaffolding for your solution. This will all be based off ViONIC framework. The assumption is that you will actually be building it, and we will be supporting you as a technical resource to help you build it, answer your questions. Those questions will be answered in the group setting during the hour-long sessions during the week, and then there's also time for one-on-one sessions. We believe that we're supporting up to 2 people from each team to participate. So if there's a product person and a technical person, they both can kind of be there for the whole journey, which we also think is important. Too often it's weighed one side or the other, and both are just as important through the product development phase. And then after the 4th week of the group sessions, we will still be doing 2 more weeks of one-on-one sessions to kind of help folks, get to the next level. And then we also will be offering additional hours of paid one-on-one support for people who want to continue to work with us.
Beautiful. So just as a snapshot, where do they go on your social media? That's where
if you follow Aaron K. Saunders on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or if you follow In3DC on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you can click the link under the profile, and there'll be another link that talks specifically about this application. And also I'll embed it at the bottom of this post.
Beautiful. So as a segue to another topic, which is what you talked about, the apprenticeship that you run. You've been doing this for quite some time. Since I've known you, you onboard the people that have no clue about technology, or even I would say UI UX. If I remember, at some point you had a junior person. So tell me why you do that, and what's the value that you see in terms of getting these people that have no background but getting them on board. In this case, they had some technology background. So tell us a little bit more why you, as Aaron Saunders, is committed to doing this.
I mean, for one, is like even if you've go through a boot camp, it's still a classroom situation, right? And actually, I was just talking to someone about this the other day. Those are all tools that you're just putting in your tool chest, right?
Yeah.
That then you need to go into the real world and know which tool will pull out to apply to solve the problem. And until you've done that a couple of times, you just don't know, right? And so I believe, just like any other industry, you know, it's surprising that in every other industry there's this concept of mentors, right?
Yeah.
There's this concept of I don't want to be offended, like, you know, who's your rabbi, right? I don't, right? I mean, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I have many of them, so yeah.
Right? But why don't we think about that from in a tech perspective, right? Everybody knows that getting a job through what's the word, through a relationship or someone who knows someone is, you know, increases the probability of success, right? And so, you know, at Clearly Innovative, when we first started, one of the things that we wanted to do was increase the probability of success for people of color who came into the tech industry. And so that meant that their first job, or one of their very first jobs, needed to be in a kind of safe, learning, nurturing environment where there were people who cared about your success, right? Who wanted to support you. And that's kind of how we ended up getting into running the apprenticeship program. Like, it was clear, like, look, I don't expect you to come in here and rock my world. Like, that's not your job. Like, you're an apprentice, you're junior, you're learning, and we're committed to helping you be successful, because through your success, we'll be successful. And, you know, if you take that approach, I think it'll change a lot of the crap that you see that's happening in the tech industry.
Why is it important to Aaron? Why is this important to
This
Aaron?
is important to me because it's like, I see, you know, when I talk about, when I put on my policy hat, which you have to here in DC, right?
Yeah.
You look at it, it's really, you look at it as economic development, right? At the end of the day, it's economic development. It's about raising wages, increasing salaries of people in, you know, in specific zip codes, you know, and if their salary comes up, they're going to spend more money. The people who they live with will live a better quality of life. And it's just all, you know, I mean, if you take it back to the basics, like, why should people get jobs?
Right.
Right. Well, how about getting a job that you know can pay you well?
Right. Especially in 21st century.
Right. You know, so I think for the most part, people are acknowledging that you don't necessarily need a computer science degree to work in the tech industry, that people are starting to buy into the value certificates and training and all these other things. And so why aren't we applying those in these communities to create jobs, increase, you know, create better quality of life for some of these folks? And, you know, I think the work that we do can help that happen. You know, as I say to folks, I've done a lot of things from just learning how to code. That if someone would have told me before that learning how to code, you could have done all this, I would have never believed it. And I think there's a lot of folks who don't realize the opportunity that tech and innovation, the doors that it can open up for them. And so, you know, the work that we do is, you know, allowing people to see those possibilities.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so that leads us to the discussion of the IN3 institutional partnerships with a few. Can you talk? I know you may have to announce it in the later future, but can you talk about the partnership and why it's important? Because one of the things about IN3 is, yes, you're a DC-based company, but you are looking at going nationwide, and you don't have to have a physical infrastructure, but it's about the content that you produce, the programs. And so can you talk about the partnership in terms of building innovation labs?
The impact that COVID has had has been devastating to under-resourced communities. but it's also kind of changed the game in how dollars are allocated, right? Money is being given to institutions. It's just as simple as that, right? And, we are not an institution, right?
Yeah, we talked about that.
We're simply not an institution. So for us to go knocking on doors to say, hey, fund us to run this program in this community or whatever, yeah, we can probably get some wins, but there's a higher likelihood of success if we partner with a known institution to run programming, because they're the places that people are going to write checks now, right? They're looking for, I'm going to use that term again, a safe space, right? They're looking for a safe space to write a check that no one's going to come back to them and say, why did you write a check for them? Or a place to write a check that in their mind, without being offensive to anyone, and their limited understanding of the issue, right? They believe that that is the best place to write a check to.
Yeah.
So we can fight the system, fight the power, right? Or we can just right, or we can just acknowledge that checks are getting written to institutions, and how do we partner with institutions to show them that we can help them have successful outcomes with the programs that they're trying to spin up with the money that they've raised.
The aspect of mentorship, because it's kind of, you're creating a cohort where they're learning from each other, they're learning from an expert, they're putting some time into developing their business, but also going nationwide, not just being restricted in one place, because we as a community, as Black people, we're across the nation and the world. But I want to talk about a bit more about the component of mentorship, because I think one of the added value that you bring in all the programs, both in Future Written in Code and the innovation labs that we run, there's office hours. And those office hours are kind of these speed mentoring type of thing. Talk about the importance of mentorship.
One of the things that you find is that I see it when I work with technologists or developers who want to get into coding, and you see it sometimes with entrepreneurs, is that there's just not the level of confidence that's needed to have a successful outcome. There's a level of risk aversion because they just haven't seen enough examples of individuals that look like them or have come from where they've come, who's been success, or because they're just afraid to fail and they don't think that they'll be given a second chance, right? So the one value that you get out of the one-on-ones are that you can kind of try to identify where there might be challenges that's holding the individual back that you simply can't identify in a large group session. That's one. And two, the individual might open up more in a one-on-one, which then gives you a better opportunity to give them the individual support that they need so that they can be more successful when they move on. I mean, a lot of this hustle is just about confidence. Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you could be as capable as you want, but if you aren't confident, sometimes if you're too afraid to fail, you're just not going to get there. Because the reality is failure sometimes is part of the process.
Oh, definitely. It is part of the process. There is no success without failure.
Yes. And you need to kind of, I don't think you need to fall in love with failure, but you need to understand that, hey, I can get back up from this.
Indeed.
Which is a nice segue to kind of like the huge failure. I wouldn't say failure, but maybe failure isn't the right word. An unsuccessful outcome or an unexpected outcome, right? How you deal with the unexpected outcome. And because you're going to run into a lot of them as an entrepreneur, right?
Yes.
A lot of what you're doing is testing and validating. And what is validating other than if it's not what you expected to happen, it's an unexpected outcome, which some might say is failure. But how do you respond to that? Right?
Absolutely.
And entrepreneurship and the work we do, a lot of it's about experimentation. Right? What do people think product market fit is?
Yeah.
It's about
Yeah.
experimentation, trying to figure it out, right? And there are failures in that process, unexpected outcomes, and how you respond to them is all part of kind of, is the term I use now, grit or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think office hours, circling back around to office hours, mentorship, providing one-on-one support, um, but also just being real about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that expression, people blowing too much smoke, right? I'll
Mm-hmm.
just stop there,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, of
And
course.
we need to
We get
acknowledge
messy.
that there's a time to encourage, but there's
Mm-hmm.
also a time to just be real,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
yo, this shit ain't gonna work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What can we do that will work? What have we learned through this experience that could add value in the next step?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of kind of wallowing in the failure or wallowing in the loss, it was just an experiment. You validated, didn't work right. Let's move forward.
Yeah, good. I was gonna come to that eventually, building up to the importance of and so on. So let's talk about the big elephant in the room,
Mm.
right? Is the recent announcement from In3 in regards to a partnership that your company has had invested in for over a year, facilitated the relationship, the partnership with the different stakeholders to make this thing happen. Um, and after the fact, after even the press release went out, they pulled a plug. So do you want to talk about it? We took some time before, a couple of months, I would say a month about, it's all been a
Mm.
month, right? About almost a
Yeah.
month now, since this thing happened, or should I say 3 weeks since this thing happened. So let's talk about it, and it comes to the entrepreneurship journey, right? It relates to the entrepreneurship journey. Um, you know, I know it very closely because I was involved in it, through the process. So can you talk about, for people who are saying, wait, hold on, what is this about? Tell us a little bit what happened, whatever you want to share, right?
I mean, briefly, because
Yeah.
I'm trying to move on, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Um, we spent from August,
March.
March was the initial conversation.
Yeah.
But then at some point we were having regular meetings,
Yeah.
weekly meetings,
Yeah.
working on a project with Howard University and Fiserv to run a In3 Labs in partnership with them, to support Howard alumni and current students to take them through our program. Furthermore, Fiserv had committed to $40,000 in cash prizes,
Yes.
to the top 3 companies that went through the program.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as Rahel said, after multiple hours, spent,
Mm-hmm.
constantly being reassured we would be getting paid,
Mm-hmm.
even being told to invoice them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Even after telling all parties involved that we were concerned about not getting paid, and
Mm-hmm.
being reassured by everyone we would get paid. The program was announced, a press release went out. 2 days later, it got pulled. We basically got shut down by Howard. We received no real explanation for why, and we have not been paid, and the program has been killed. Our partnership has been killed.
Yes. Because they have the design of that program, just
right.
as if.
Yes, because remember, the whole way this was set up was that we were running the program,
Mm-hmm.
right? We were taking our program and running it based on specific requirements that they had on who would participate. Yeah. We did the press release. Mm-hmm. We laid out exactly what the program. It was set that we were going to interview and actually select the entrepreneurs that would participate, and we were going to run it. So it was basically our program paid by somebody else with Howard's brand on it. Mm-hmm. I mean, in a nutshell. And like I said, they killed it. And I don't really care that they killed it. That's okay. How they did it is what I find problematic. And there's someone I know in the community who kind of wrote a blog post about it. And, he told me, he responded on his blog post because he said people were coming at him for calling Howard out. And, he said it best. He's like, if we can't hold ourselves accountable, right, then we have a bigger problem. Right.
Absolutely.
And this gentleman, he went to Howard. He says, I love Howard. I love my university. He says, I shout out HU proud. But he's like, I need to be able to call them out when they're not right. And he's like, what they did and what they're doing here is just not right. And what I say is that if a PWI, or for those who don't know, if a predominantly white institute did this to any other Black organization, folks be hollering up and down the street.
Yeah.
And so my point is that there needs to be accountability all around for everyone, right? If I do something fucked up, y'all should hold me accountable, right? And, if our institutions do things that aren't right, they should be held accountable. And just to end it on that, we just got to do better as a, we just need to do better, right? It's just as simple as that. And stop making excuses. Right?
Yeah, no, it's good in terms of, I fully agree with you, and this is something that you and I have spoken offline in regards to holding Black legacy organizations accountable for things that they do and don't do. You give them their kudos when they're doing right, but when they're doing something faulty, they should be a little bit more responsible and astute in the way they do about it, because all of us are committed to building the Black community and empowering, and the economic development and social justice and all. So lovely. Thank you for sharing your side of the story. This is the first time you're actually echoing it. So thank you, Aaron, for allowing me to ask you that question. So now let's segue to something that is a little bit more interesting, should I say. Let's talk about, you mentioned what's going on with Aaron. You said you have a CEO group. What are you doing with that CEO group? I mean, I find it quite interesting. I know about it because you share it with me. Please tell your audience about what's your CEO group, how it has benefited you.
So I have a CEO group that I participate in. It started out with me just doing one-on-one, coaching sessions. And the gentleman that I work with has kind of created a CEO group. Everybody's got it just because of COVID. And so, what we do is we have monthly, we do 2 sessions a month. One is online and one is in person. He's kind of hand selected from other CEOs and senior executives that he has coached. And he's kind of handpicked to put together people that he think can benefit from being in the groups together. And we work on, the interesting thing is it's not all about coming in and focusing on kind of numbers and business strategy and all these other things. It's more focused on you knowing you and understanding you better so that basically you could perform at your best level. Now, there's nothing wrong with leveraging the resources on your group for help and support around specific business related issues, or even, the gentleman who runs the program, like, he's more than happy to sit down with you and talk to you about your business strategies, review your pitch deck, and do all other stuff. But a lot of the emphasis is on you as an individual, what goals you are trying to accomplish, and really understanding who you are as an individual so that you could then understand what's holding you back, but then also understand how to leverage your strengths to help propel you. So, and it's helped me a lot with, probably, I would say the thing that it's helped me most with is being more confident with the value that I add. Absolutely. If nothing else, I mean, Rahel, we've worked together for years. And, I mean, we've worked together for years, and I mean, we've even had discussions where you've noticed my change. It's being more comfortable with articulating the things that I know instead of keeping it all in. And, the other thing I'm pushing is to try to get better with, my interpersonal skills. It's yeah.
So I mean, it's I'm happy that you tell me you share this part of it, and absolutely, because I think knowing what, as I refer to you, the veteran, the tech guru, and so on, there are many things that you don't outright say to people, or that you demonstrate that you know, you don't have a bunch of plaques around you went to NYU to get your MBA, but there's no way you go into your office and there's no plaque or anything, right? But you have all these accolades, and I remember even going into your office, you may have an award, but it's like put it in some drawer, you know? And so you just, and so these are parts of building your brand, and you know, knowing that the rest of the world sees the value in you, but you're just like, this is not what's important to me. The impact is important to me. And so let's talk about why. So, you know, and I appreciate the fact that you're sharing about the mentorship that you're getting with the circle of CEOs that you're going.
And the thing I want to touch on, I want to share on that, is it's like there's this culture sometimes. I don't want to generalize, so I'll just say men. I won't say black men. I'll just say men.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's this feeling that asking for help indicates some sort of weakness, right?
Yeah.
And then if I need help, then how can I really be a leader, right? Right?
Yes.
And so, I mean, I talk about it so that people realize that. So if they look at me and say, well, Aaron's had some success, why does he need a coach? Why does he need help? Right?
Yeah.
Actually, because I mean, if you need help, you need it. I mean, I have no problem telling people I saw a shrink for almost 3 years at one point in my life, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of people who are like, oh, that's fucked up. What's wrong with you? Why you gotta go see a shrink? You know, you crazy. No, I mean, sometimes you just you gotta talk about it.
Yeah, indeed. I'm in full agreement about those things.
And so to me, you know,
I'm in full agreement.
I think I didn't really think about it when I first started being more open about this stuff from like the perspective it had in kind of the larger ecosystem. I did it more of as like, I got kids, right? And I'm trying to set an example for them. But as I look out farther and as I start to build like real relationships with folks, I'll be honest, there's a lot of folks that I've probably could have built more, I'll use the word genuine relationships with over the years. But, you know, I just got too caught up in the impact, let's say, on doing what I wanted to do. And to me, I thought that was more value than anything else. It was someone who told me this, I don't know if it was you or someone else. And they said, one of the things that a lot of folks like me don't focus on is they don't know when's that point in their career where you've done enough shit. Now you need to start letting people know what you've done, right?
Yeah.
And you wait too long to turn that switch and you miss out on a bunch of opportunities.
Yeah.
I waited too long, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to catch up. And part of knowing when to turn that switch is that's when you realize that people respect you and respect what you've done. And there's genuine relationships that you could have built that could have helped you actually accomplish the thing that you felt like you were doing by yourself all along. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're definitely one of the last people to toot your own horn. That much I can say. You know, you're not a person who's out there, and you know, we've talked about this for quite some time, saying, well, you need to be out there, you know, doing the schmoozing and so on and so forth. But and you're not too late. You know, I don't believe that you're too late.
Right.
I think everything has its own time, and it's a perfect timing. So in terms of so going back a little bit in terms of what you envision for yourself, as you know, it's 2021. No, you know, you haven't done an IN3Talks starting in 2021, unless it's those the snippets that you do if they don't follow you on for people that follow you on social media. But what do you envision for 2021?
So there's actually, if I had my notes, because this is one of the things that they made us do in our in our CEO group, was to kind of like, actually, because he used bigger words. It was like, what's going to make 2021 extraordinary?
Yes, I like that.
And I know I don't have all of them directly right here, and I don't really want to read it. Part of me is like, the things that I remember are probably the ones that I will execute because I still remember them, right?
Yes.
And I mean, a big part of it, I mean, was that, you know, I don't know how many I said, but I said I wanted to build n number of relationships that would help me accomplish the goals that I want to accomplish for 2021. Beautiful. So what I'm doing there is I'm shifting the priority from what are the things that Aaron Saunders as an individual can do to have a successful outcome in 2021, to more of what are the relationships that I can build with individuals, institutions that I can collaborate with that can help me scale to accomplish the things that I want to do that I know I just simply can't accomplish on my own. Like before, I just felt like I had to put all of it on my back and kind of get it across the finish line. And now I'm realizing that my energy is better spent building relationships and collaborations with other individuals that can potentially help me to accomplish all the things I want to accomplish. So I know a big part of it was building relationships. Other thing was, and I've made some good progress and I need to make more, is the focusing on the content creation around education, right? Taking a lot of the work that I've just kind of been doing here and there and kind of really focusing on it as a business objective. Which I'm comfortable with the progress that I've made so far. I mean, we're in March. Yeah. I've pushed out 3 courses already on Udemy. We're about to launch this business bootcamp, this technical bootcamp, which we've spoken about for probably 2 years. And we're finally getting that launched. And so I'm excited about that. We finally, as you mentioned earlier on, we haven't really had apprentices in 2 years? So we're kind of 2 years. Yeah. So we're finally getting back to that. And, still moving aggressively. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I don't think that I spent a lot of time outwardly focused on pushing the In3 brand and the work we did because we were just so busy trying to keep the damn lights on, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We were so focused on the internal operations of the physical space that we just didn't spend a lot of time on the phone talking to people, telling them the work that we did and saying, how can we work together? Yeah. And I think we're doing more. I mean, it's only like March, and I think we're doing more of that already.
Yeah, absolutely. That telling your story as much as possible is one of the important aspects of it, and relationship building, as we talked about. So I want to, I know if somebody had to go through your In3 Talks, one of them, they will find it, but I want to just do this for the heck of doing it. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I found my list.
Oh, lovely. How about you give us your top 5?
I'll take the personal ones out and focus on the business ones. I'll leave one and take better care of myself from a health perspective, right?
Okay.
Because if I'm not healthy, things are going to be bad. The other ones, as I said, were focused on helping us kind of move forward. And one was to identify a senior operational resource. To focus on more of the operational stuff so I can kind of shift over to more of a kind of business development perspective, kind of telling our story, letting the world know what we're doing, and also provide more support to Clearly Innovative. When I'm more engaged, the business grows better. The other thing is I wanted to this was I was very specific about. I wanted to double the annual revenue of Clearly Innovative. And then the other thing I wanted to do, which we don't really even talk about that much, is just kind of like the bald-headed stepchild. We just drag along in the back. Make them sit all the way in the back of the station wagon, right? You don't even let them sit up. They're like in the back, in the seat that's facing backwards. Look at them. And that's our education business, right?
Yes.
I mean, I think I was talking to Denise, our COO, and she said like the best year we did our education business, which we never advertised. We rarely even promote. Our best year we did was $300,000, right? And we want to double that this year. The other thing that I want to make commitment to is have at least 2 speaking engagements. Not like podcasts or something like on more well-known branded conferences or something. Two speaking, and actually, and specifically national ones. Right. Like I've done like the local circuit here in DC, and every now and then they call me to talk about it. It's like, no, I need to do something more on a national level. Identify education and innovation programming partners outside of DC, outside of physically DC, basically in the DMV region, kind of Maryland, Northern Virginia. And then also identify education innovation partners outside of the region, so across the United States, right? So I want one close by regionally and another one out, further out. And then the last one we're still talking about internally is we're based here in DC, we're a minority-owned business, and we are not an 8A firm. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're still kind of trying to get our paperwork done for the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of this year. But then we do want to sit down and have a real conversation about what will it take for us at least to get our 8A, because we are here in a district, we are an 8A based firm. And so what other opportunities can that create for us?
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I
And for
think
those who
it's
don't know what
yeah.
8A is, because there might be some people who don't know what 8A is.
That's true.
Actually, I don't know where the number 8A comes from, but I know it's a set aside for minority-owned businesses, that certain government agencies have a certain amount of their budget that needs to be spent with 8A firms.
Yes,
And as a
exactly. Minority. Yeah.
yes, and as a technology firm based in a district owned by a minority,
Mm.
it's
You
almost
qualify.
I qualify, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a process issue now. I should be just go
Yeah.
through the process of filling out the paperwork and getting it done.
Yeah, yeah. No, this is great. I think in terms of we've touched upon different elements, and I think for entrepreneurs to hear you say, well, these are my envision list. Like these are my priority list. This is what I'm gonna do for myself to grow my business and so on. So as we're wrapping up, is there any specific thing that you want to mention in regards to certain programs or in terms of what you would leave some of the followers, audience members in terms of if you had to give them three key things to say, you should do A, B, and C. What would be the A, B, and C?
In regards to themselves or for me?
Not for them. Like if you had to advise someone saying, an entrepreneur, a business, given the fact that you've gone through a CEO, group where you have learned, and you would say, you know what, if I had learned about these things when I was 10 years ago when I started my business as an entrepreneur, I should have known these things. What would be the three things
I
that
mean,
you
I
learned?
think the first one is the one we spoke about before, which is kind of knowing when to switch from internal focus to external focus,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of entrepreneurs, you spend so much time building the product and that you're not focused on building the market or even identifying the market, right? I don't know where I read it. Actually, I know where I read it. I saw a video I included in our application from Michael Seibel, and he was talking about he works with startups and he says to them, where are you going to get your first customer? And a lot of them look at him kind of, cross, like they don't have an answer. Then he's like, then what the hell are you building?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't even know where you're going to find your first customer,
Right.
aren't you supposed to be building something for a market?
Mm-hmm.
And if
Mm-hmm.
you haven't identified that market, then what are you building?
Right. Yes. Just an idea that just popped and that
Yes,
they're going.
right.
Yeah. We've seen that.
And
Yeah.
so it's like that's some advice that I give you. Make sure you understand who you're selling. You should be able to describe, at least generally, who you're who you're building this for, and what this problem is you're trying to. It's one thing to say the problem you're trying to solve, right?
Yeah.
But who has that problem?
Mm-hmm.
That's who you're trying to sell to, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is, as I said, that switch from kind of focus internally to externally, which is important. And then, which is kind of related to this also, is that, understanding, we discussed this yesterday, pick the percentage number, right? X% of something is better than 0% of nothing.
Absolutely. A lot of people don't
Sorry, 100% of nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so being an entrepreneur is hard. Starting a business is hard. There is no shame in having a co-founder, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no shame in having a founding team to kind of help you get it across the finish line, because this shit is hard.
Yeah.
And if you're really committed to what you're doing and want to see a successful outcome, sometimes asking for help, adding people to the team who have the skills that you don't have, is the best way to get it done. And I think that a lot of time entrepreneurs feel like there's some sort of badge you get for, saying I did this all by myself.
Yeah. No, it's we need to learn to work with each other and work with one another, collaborate, partner, as you're saying, in terms of even as part of your goals. So Aaron, if people wanted to find you, where do they go?
Aaron K. Saunders, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I set up my link tree on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram posts. So when you click the profile, it'll take you to a long list of links that talk about all my technical work I'm doing, my courses, my videos. It'll redirect you back to some of the work we're doing at IN3, applications for the boot camp. So everything is is a jump off from my profile link on all those social media platforms.
Beautiful. Which I wanted to rewind a little bit in terms of what I wanted to finish as a sentence earlier on. If they had to go back into your videos and earlier in 3Talks, they would find it. But let's do this quickly. Aaron, when did you start coding?
I started coding when I was in 6th grade.
When did you jump into the workforce as a programmer, computer scientist, engineer?
I started getting paid to write software my freshman year in college.
When did you what platforms did you start that people just in the mainstream started finding out later on?
I don't understand the question.
Meaning, like you told me that to be e-commerce, for instance, you were
Oh
building.
yeah, I mean, I was doing actually, if I think about it, really, when I was a sophomore in college, I was writing a retail system to connect the cash registers for a small computer shop in Columbus, Ohio. Okay. Actually, I always forget about that. So like we were connecting it to the register, generating reports, and actually trying to figure it out how to connect to the bank to do transfers. And that was in the 80s.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to. Have you gone to different countries to run projects for clients?
And then I worked on the first Nike store.com, the first Disney store.com. I went to Europe and I worked on marksandSpencers.com. I did some work for Verizon down in Tampa. I did some work in Chicago. I spent a year in California working on the second version of the Disney store.com. The company I worked for built the first Disney store.com. And then that was like the first big year of e-commerce for Disney. And then they brought us back to address issues from the first Christmas. And we came back, I think in February after that Christmas. And I spent the whole next year working on the second version of DisneyStore.com to kind of bring it up live.
Beautiful. When did you start your company and with what kind of project did you start it?
We started our company about 12 years ago and we spun it off of, it's funny, what's old is news. So I got my first clients from blogging. So I was doing, I had a full-time job and I was using technology, Accelerator Titanium or Titanium Accelerator. And it was a relatively new cross-platform framework and it was difficult to find answers because it was relatively new. And so I would Google and search for answers. And if I couldn't find an answer once I solved it, I would blog about it. And so that's how I started blogging. And then people start to follow my blog and they would find answers there. And then some folks would say, hey, do you just want to do my whole project? And so I started getting clients. I had 3 clients before I quit and started Clearly Innovative.
Beautiful.
And so that's how it all started.
And the type of projects that you can do in range, if someone has, and this is one thing that they will do through Future Written in Code Bootcamp, but if a client was interested, what kind of range of projects or products can you kind of deliver?
So if we just focus on the clients we had, so we work with small startups, but then we've also worked with, our largest client right now is the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. So that's a pretty large project. We've done some work for Red Cross, helped with an e-commerce solution there, done some work for Queens Public Library. We are currently working on a delivery solution for a client. We're working on community building solution for a client. We're working on the services kind of management for field workers right now, client solution. So it varies, it varies. We have a very hands-on approach to working with our clients. The same advice we give folks that come to our boot camps about focusing on value add, sprints to add value, not trying to do this one huge like 8-month long till someone sees the solution. Um, we meet frequent with our clients and we give them advice, right? We don't just sit down and they say, all right, build this and go off and build it. Like if we think it's wrong, we will tell them, hey, we don't think this is right. We will recommend solutions for them. This last year has been a heavy push into e-commerce, retail. Pretty much all the solutions that we're working on have now payment integrations one way or another for people to buy and sell goods or services through the solutions that we build.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Aaron. They can find you again one last time, if you can repeat it, where they can find
Aaron
you on
K,
social media.
AARONK Saunders, SAUNDERS, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a nice one.
Take care. Bye now.